Hello, and welcome to my biggest video project this far. So, I've been getting a lot of requests for tutorials, and I suppose you could call it more in-depth content. And this is something that I wanted to try for a while, I suppose. And with my latest project, you can see the renders here in the background, I decided to give this a go and try and turn this whole thing into a tutorial series where I talk you through my entire character and creature art asset pipeline. So I'm going to try and talk you through the entire process from concept art all the way up to animated low poly model. This series will be a kind of top level view for my entire workflow, which means that we'll be covering a lot of different disciplines and software along the way. I'll try to talk you through my process, thoughts, experiences, and also mention common pitfalls and misconceptions along the way. Oh, and of course, I'll try to offer some tips and suggestions as well. Yeah. So feel free to let me know what you think of this new format and to give suggestions and feedback in the comments below. And yeah, that should be it. Let's dive right in. Part 1, concept art. Then suddenly here we are, staring down a blank canvas. We haven't even decided what we want to do yet. But let's start with a bit of background so that you know where I'm coming from. I started art school more than 20 years ago when I was around 16. At this point, all my classes were still working with traditional media, so pencils, charcoals, oil paints, so on. But at home, after classes, I'd use a Wacom tablet that I'd saved for together with the family PC. Back in the early 2000s, I was a relatively early adopter of digital art, at least for Sweden. Still, no matter if you're starting out drawing on paper or painting in VR, the starting point is still the same. And in my experience, some people absolutely dread being here, while others thrive at this point. Some even struggle with narrowing down the absolute chaos going on in their brains at this point. I've met, collaborated, worked with all all types. For me personally, I'm probably more of the later type, chaos, and as far as I recall, it took me years to work out the routines and experience needed in order to actually be productive, rather than just rapidly filling sketchpads with all kinds of nonsense. So, how do I tackle the empty canvas staring me down these days? Well, usually I try to narrow down what I'm about to do to a single phrase, a purpose. So, in order to do this, I try to answer the questions what, where, and why. And in this case, what I want to do is create an enemy for my first-person shooter game. And the where then, of course, becomes the environment for which this enemy is intended. So the first-person shooter project that I'm working on is a sci-fi sort of thing. And as for the environment, I want to create a prototype environment where I test and explore the limits of destruction within, well, my project. So the idea is to try and have as much as possible of the environment destructible. And towards that goal, that location, I thought it would be interesting to create an enemy which interacts with the environment, and the most simple, straightforward option there is it explodes. So that sort of that sort of puts everything into place. I have a purpose, I have a location, I have an idea what I want to do and why I want to do it as well. So at this point I ended up thinking, well, let's start with the most basic, simple thing starting point I can go from, and that's, well, I'm making a game, explosions, red barrel, that's pretty much it. So, well, how do I make a red barrel a little more interesting than just a red oil drum? Well, let's at least make it a propane tank. So, elongated, a nozzle on the top, and so on. Well, at this point I need to sort of keep the ball rolling. So, well, a propane tank is a kind of lousy enemy. How is it supposed to reach the player? Well, let's put legs on it, and how would that make any sense? Well, let's deploy the age-old and very proud tradition of sci-fi bullshit. Let's just say, hey, it's a mutant, and the tank is sort of fused with the mutant for whatever reason. It's not really important at this point. So, okay, I start drawing a mutant creature, and the ball just keeps going, and I'm trying to figure out, well, how does the spine work? How does the whole character actually fuse with the tank? It's a strange thing to consider, but these are the sort of things that will inform your design and all the little details. And okay, how does the actual boundary between the mutant and the tank look? Well, wouldn't it be kind of gross and interesting if it had these sort of growing, almost web features to it? And yeah, I just keep trying to keep this ball going, and to let one thing lead to the next, and to the next, and to the next, and so on. So as long as you can find a starting point, it kind of works itself out after a while. And well, at this point I've solved the explosion and how the explosion is supposed to reach the player, but how is the actual trigger supposed to look like? How is this supposed to detonate? And again, the most obvious, easy answer is just give the mutant a detonator that it can handle itself. So the most obvious there would be a hand grenade, where the mutant can just pull the pin, and well, that's it. We're pretty much done. Everything else is just sort of finding the right tools for you. It doesn't matter if you're using Paint or Krita or GIMP or Photoshop, Clip Studio, Painter, traditional media, charcoal, pencil. I mean, use crayons for all I care. It's not really important. Concept art, fundamentally, as far as I'm concerned, is supposed to convey a design, something interesting it's supposed to have enough information in order to inform the creation of the production art. And that's it. You don't really need any more than that. I often see a lot of concept art being these extremely polished pieces, the kind of overproduced and, well, I mean, gorgeous. I love them. They're beautiful, but I have to ask, what's the point? I mean, why are these concept pieces so fancy? It doesn't really serve any purpose besides having fancy concept art to show at the end after the fact. When I'm making concept art for myself, for my own assets, I try to make sure to keep them as simple as possible. I'm not too worried about getting the proportions perfect or doing a lot of shading or, you know, actually turning it into a fancy painting. I tend to stick with these line arts with a single layer of shading just to bring out the shapes, and that's it's usually enough. That's all I need for my 3D modeling, at least. Alright, now, in case you want to help me make videos and games, and to be a part of my process, get early peaks and whatnot, I actually went and started a Patreon page. And I even went and started a Discord server, where I'll hang out and probably do a bit of streaming and whatnot when I can. Right now it's just me and the Patreon bot though. And I said, yeah. Anyway, as usual, feel free to give me any feedback or suggestions, especially with this new kind of format that I'm doing for the video. It's I really enjoy making these videos. It's a lot of fun, and I've done it for some 15 months now, and I'm actually starting to feel kind of comfortable with the video editing and so on. And yeah, same as painting or drawing or 3D modeling or sculpting or video editing is a lot of fun as well. But yeah, I'll hopefully have part 2 of these videos up pretty soon. I mean, it depends on how much time I have on my hands and so on. This making these takes. It's fun, but it's a lot of work. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next part. Until then, yeah, have a good time, I guess. Bye.